Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing some more card reviews. Not going to be covering the neutrals today, there's quite a lot of them to get through. I'm going to save that for another day. Instead we're just going to focus on the class cards, starting with Rin, Orchestrator of Doom. 5 mana 3/6 taunt, death rattle. Both players draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and destroy the top 2 cards of the deck. So if you like cards, you're going to hate this card. This is kind of a potential win con that we're kind of unraveling for Warlock, but we haven't quite got the whole picture for it because this is obviously a neutral effect. It's going to affect you and the opponent, so there needs to be some way to like benefit yourself from this. Maybe there's ways to shuffle more cards into your deck for Warlock that's yet to be revealed. We shall see. There are currently some cards that synergize with this in Standard of the upcoming set. Devourer of Souls, after a friendly minion dies against death rattle, so you can double dip on that. Some ones are rotating. This one is staying. Shallow Grave, trigger a friendly minion's death rattle and destroy it. You can double dip again. There's Habeas Corpus, which can res it and then have it trigger again. So you can for sure trigger this a lot of times within a game. How good is it now? I mean, it doesn't seem that useful for now, but there's some nice order on this. I'll say that both players draw 2 cards, then you discard 2 cards. So if their hand size is kind of full, they're gonna discard 2 cards from their deck, and then they're gonna discard. So sorry, they're gonna draw 2 cards, discard 2 from the deck because they're overdrawing. Then they're going to discard 2 from the hand, and then they're going to destroy the top 2 cards of the deck. So can really deplete them of resources, particularly if you're doubling this. If you're doing a really big turn with some of the cards I mentioned that they already have. But I don't know if this is actually strong because tempo-wise it's a bit weak. But there's maybe a way for a control-style Warlock to use this as their win con. But we need to see a bit more of the set, I think, before we can evaluate that. Definitely a very cool card. Kind of one that I hope is not going to be good because it's going to be kind of frustrating to play against. But certainly exciting to see what direction it goes in. Alright, now Shaman have got a bunch of cards revealed. We're going for an overload theme. Sadly, the quest is rotating. So now they decide to support it. What have we got in store for them? We have Flow Rider, 2 mana 3/2 Naga, Battlecry. If you're overloaded, discover a spell from your deck. Now this seems like a really good card. It's Thrive of Shadows from Priest, kind of, with a body attached. But the issue with this is that you need the condition if you're overloaded for a 2-drop. So playing on curve, you're not going to be overloaded. If you overload on 1, you can't actually play this on 2. So it kind of needs to be like a play beyond turn 2. So it's like a 2 mana play for turn 3, maybe turn 4, etc. So that certainly weakens it a little bit if you want to get the effect out of it, which I assume you do want to. Would not really like overflowing with overload effects in Shaman right now. It's really going to have to come from the core set. We can have a look real quick here. Some of these are going to rotate. They have this one. Some of these are core. We don't know if they're going to stick around. This one. This one. Even that one's rotating. There's not a whole lot in Standard right now that are going to be sticking around, but there is a core set announcement, and likely what's going to happen, since we've got a set that relies on overload, is that they're going to introduce a lot of cheap overload cards in that core set. So to truly evaluate this, we kind of need to wait for that. It's potentially good, but it's just like this curve awkwardness with this card, particularly also with their weapon, the Jazz Base, because you could in theory have a curve where you have a 2 mana spell or minion that overloads you on 2. Maybe like they bring back Totem Golem, for instance. And then on turn 3, you overloaded 1, you can play the Flow Rider, and that's fine. But you kind of also want to fit this in, the Jazz Bass, which is a new weapon for them. 3 mana 2/2, death rattle, your next spell costs 1 less. Overload while equipped to improve. So the curve is a little awkward. Like if you got a lot of 2 mana overloads, you can't really play them on 2 if you want to equip the Jazz Bass on 3. So then what are we doing? Are we not doing anything on 2, playing this on 3, and then overloading on 4? Maybe we can do that. It just means that our early turns may be a little bit weaker. And this isn't exactly a strong turn in itself, unless you get the synergy as well. But there's some really cool potential with this card, particularly for big spells. We can take a look at some of the payoffs. Criminal lineup. You can maybe do some OTKs if you overload a lot with this. With the weapon equipped, you can maybe play this super cheap and copy something like Alakir, if that's going to stick around. And there's also, from the other side, weapon has the potential to cheat this out earlier, which it really lacked before. The only other way was Barbaric Sorceress, which was not really ideal. But this new weapon means that we can, as long as there's good enough overloads, we can potentially just cheat this out very early. And if the rest of the deck is like filled with minions good from the other side, maybe this is a deck that can come together. It might be hard to fit in all the big minions and the overload to support this though. We've already seen the Brass Elemental. We've got Altered Chord as well here. 5 mana, lifesteal, deal 5 damage to a minion, cost 3 less if you're overloaded. So it's going to be 2 mana, deal 5. With lifesteal, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Sort of like halfway between Torrent and the 3 mana version of this spell, which deals 4 with lifesteal. Chaos Leech is a card in Demon Hunter, which when outcasted is, actually kind of decent, I've always thought. And this is going to be 1 mana cheaper than Chaos Leech, and it's always going to deal the 5, as long as you're overloaded. And you have to imagine within this deck, it's not actually going to be that hard to overload. Plus, you have the Flow Rider, which can maybe tutor the Altered Chord for you if you need it. So with this very nice healing removal spell, you can see this deck actually maybe take more of a control route and be able to get to late game and try and get a win con from that potentially. Particularly because the Flow Rider itself has some awkward early turns, so I don't think you want to necessarily be like an aggressive deck. But we'll see. We'll see. It really depends on what core set cards and what other Shaman cards are coming out. We've got the Legendary as well. Inza. 5 mana 5/5. Battlecry for the rest of the game. Your overload cards cost 1 less. Which potentially is insane. You can discount so much mana, particularly because Shaman in Wild has so many 1-cost overloads, which will be suddenly 0 mana. Have a quick look here. At some potential, there's nothing confirmed, but this one would be insane. This would be 0 mana and discovers another thing that's discounted. Potentially this is actually going to go to the core set. And there's like guidance. Bunch of one cost overloads here as well. That all of them reasonably could see their way back into the core set. But for now, the card doesn't do much. It's just like I'm imagining with a good core set this could be a powerhouse, but for now it's just like it's okay. And we've finally got Pack the House. 7 mana, summon a random 6/5/4 and 3-cost minion, overload 2. This is another overload spell. Potential synergy with this deck. I mean, this is a spell that you can cheat out with the Jazz Bass and play it a lot earlier. Play this on 3. Then you play some overload on 4. Then this gets cheaper. I mean, the kind of weird part is that if you played the overload to juice up the Jazz Bass, on your next turn you already have less mana. So maybe you're not actually going to be able to cheat this out until 2 turns later. Unless we see, like, again, core set bringing in something like Where is it? Lava Shock, potentially. To clear those mana, overloaded mana crystals. Maybe something like that. Maybe they can make this like 1 mana. Potentially. But yeah, it's an interesting shaman set so far. It's a lot of reliance on what the core set looks like. This spell's like not too bad. It's like quite a lot of stats that you just slam onto the board. It's kind of reminds me a bit of like the Scourge. Obviously, doesn't fill up your whole board, but a lot of the time you can already have minions on the board and then play this. Whereas with the Scourge, you kind of need to like have an empty board to get the max value out of it. So, and of course, being 2 mana cheaper is a big deal. So, maybe some good potential for this card. It's a lot of stuff in a box, which is generally going to be quite good. Alright, moving on to Rogue. Rogue set seems to be about bouncing things and combo. We have Breakdance, Disc Jockey, Bounce Around, and Rhyme Spinner to talk about. Let's first talk about the Rhyme Spinner. So this is 3 mana 1/3 Rush combo. Gain +1/+1 for each other combo card you've played this game. So you need to combo this as well. Big payoff card. It is kind of looking like we might see things like Foxy Fraud come back for Rogue's core set with lots of combo potential. I like the idea of this. It's a bit up in the air whether Shadow Step's going to come back, because Shadow Step does work really nicely with a lot of these. I have a feeling that it will come back. Maybe it will be nerfed to only reduce by 1 instead of 2, or maybe the mana cost will be slightly increased. Something like that. I think there's a bit too much hate on the card now for them to just bring it back and not nerf it at all. I think they'll cave a little bit. So what the plan with this deck, I suppose, is you want to be buffing up the Rhyme Spinners a lot by playing loads of combo cards. You play Rhyme Spinner, it has Rush, and then you Breakdance it, I think. This is 1 mana, return a friendly minion to your hand, summon a dancer with its stats and Rush. So if you've made Rhyme Spinner really big, you can take a trade with him, and then you can Breakdance him, and you get his stats again, basically with Rush. And then the next turn you can just go again, you can Rhyme Spinner again. Or even on the same turn, potentially, if it's a really later turn, you can something Rhyme Spinner, Breakdance, Rhyme Spinner. It's a pretty nice turn. You end up with 2 big minions, and you get to rush 3 different times. So it's quite a big board swing potential. You just need a bit of setup to get there. And we've got like Disc Jockey as potential setup. This card's not that good, I think, without Foxy Fraud. But with Foxy Fraud, I think you'd probably want to play this. So this is 2 mana 4/1 Mech Beast combo. Add a random combo card to your hand. So this is adding a lot of fuel to Rhyme Spinner. So it's good in that sense. The downside is like the stat line is not great. The effect's not fantastic. But if you suddenly have Foxy Fraud available, you can start seeing some really good turns. Maybe you go Foxy Fraud, Disc Jockey. And you could even think about Breakdancing the Foxy Fraud, bring it back to your hand, play it again, play the combo card from that, and then suddenly you're mega juiced up for your Rhyme Spinners. But again, I think it has to have a Foxy Fraud in the core set. Of course, we've got this as a combo card that's already been revealed, which would naturally fit into that deck as well. And of course, the weapon gives you a big turn if you played lots of combo cards. So they're all very synergistic with each other. We also have this legendary spell, which people are going a bit crazy over. Return all friendly minions to your hand. They cost 1 this turn. So it's a bit like Tenwu in a spell form. This card really kind of depends on what combos are available for Rogue. So it is potentially very powerful, or it could potentially just be nothing. It just depends if there's powerful enough effects with like Battlecry effects to an OTK or something. because the support is there, especially with Record Scratcher. You can do a big turn with Record Scratcher and bounce around. So you like play all your minions, you swing with the Record Scratcher, get your mana back, bounce around, bounce your things back, etc, etc. It's there, it's just whether or not there is a powerful enough combo available. And currently, right now, I don't think there is. But there's more cards to be revealed, more core set cards to be revealed. Who knows, maybe there will be eventually. The nice thing about this is you can prep it, so it's not already 3 mana, it's going to be often just 1 mana to do this effect. So I imagine it's going to be strong. We just need to wait to see if there's a payoff for it. But I'm more interested in all the other combo stuff. I'm not sure they necessarily go in the same deck all the time. But it all looks pretty nice, especially, again, if we get that Foxy Fraud. Next, we have Priest. Priest got a bunch of Overheal cards. We've already seen the Fan Club, but this will tie into it. We have this new weapon / microphone looking thing. Idol's Adoration. Your hero power costs 0. After you use it, lose 1 durability. This card doesn't look that strong on first glance, but it has some nice applications with the Overheal. It's another way to bank your mana. So we've already seen Fan Club, which is a great way to bank mana. You play this, and then on your big turn, you can pop this off. But you can do the same thing with Idol's Adoration. So potential to set up a big turn by playing these 2 cards. Then you have 2 different ways to heal something for 0 mana on your future turns, which is pretty nice. And what is that thing? It's going to be Hadanis, or it's going to be this new 3-drop Heartthrob that they introduced, which looks very, very strong actually. There's a 3 mana 2/5 undead. Overheal, summon a random minion with cost equal to the amount overhealed. So this thing is going to make a huge amount of board if you've got things banked up. Plus, maybe there's going to be like Circular Healing or something in the core set to further it even more. I was kind of thinking Circular Healing would be in the core set when I saw Hadanis. Now I'm less sure with Heartthrob, because Heartthrob Circular Healing, if you just play it, is like an instant 5/5 for 0 mana. Seems a bit too strong. But who knows, maybe they'll still do it. So also we have Dreamboat. 2 mana Dreamboat, Battlecry, restore 3 health to all friendly minions, gain +1/+1 for each one overhealed. Naga as well, it's a 1/2. So this is actually kind of similar to Traveling Merchant in its effect, but for 2 mana. And Traveling Merchant, not the strongest of cards, but it wasn't awful. You can kind of imagine how a 2 mana version of it becomes a lot stronger. And this also has a bit more upside as well, in that it can trigger overheal effects for other cards as well as just heal up your minions. So this is like gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion you control. And the Dreamboat, +1/+1 for each one overhealed. Well, if you're overhealing full minions, it's kind of like the same as just them being there. So it's going to be fairly similar in effect, but will also trigger Heartthrob and this guy some of the time, and potentially be very, very strong. So you could see like a deck maybe where you play 2 of these and maybe 2 of these, and obviously a lot of heal spells, and you spend the first few turns doing a setup, and then maybe turn 5 or so you can do like Heartthrob. You play him, you use your 0 mana heal that you have from the weapon on the Heartthrob to make another minion, which will just be a 2/2. And then you can like Fan Club, and it will make another a 3/3 plus. Sorry, it'll just make a 3/3, and then you can Dreamboat afterwards, and that will trigger the Heartthrob and give you a big 2 mana minion. So it's like a big board play. And if you put in like extra copies of minions, or you've got already have minions that are on the board, suddenly it gets a lot stronger. Also, I want to talk a little bit on Hadanis. Maybe there is a deck where you use this neutral minion, the Cover Artist, and you do a sort of similar thing where you use this on the Hadanis. You just do your setup turn with the location and the weapon, and turn 8 or 9 or so you Hadanis and copy it, and then trigger everything, you know, bombs away, deals 5 twice each time you do a heal effect. Pretty strong potentially. So priest cards look really, really cool. I think the Heartthrob looks like a really strong card actually. It's really, this is also an effect that snowballs. It's on a 2/5 body. It summons lots of stats quite easily, particularly with these 2 cheap ones. And there are a bunch of other effects as well available that heal for priests. Some of them are rotating, but you have some that are a bit underutilized, namely this one. Battlecry, if you cast a holy spell while holding this, restore 6 health to all friendly characters. Suddenly that looks very good with the Heartthrob, but it's not been used much before. And you also have like some Fury Clergy in the neutrals. As another way to maybe get some overheal effects. So there's definitely the tools available there for this deck, and it looks really cool actually. I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out, because it's a different style of priest. It's more like, it seems like more like a tempo priest, and I've always preferred those ones to the control archetypes. So a good set overall for priest. I think that's all the cards for now that we have to talk about. There's going to be more reveals, and I'll do more videos as they come out, and of course we'll do the neutrals at some point when I have time, before the whole set's released. But thank you for watching guys, and I will catch you in the next video. Let me know your thoughts on these cards released so far.